My name is Hannah Cole. I'm 25 years old, a digital content creator living in Grand Rapids, Michigan. Last summer, after a week-long trip to Hawaii, I came back home expecting to crash into my own bed. But the moment I walked in, I froze. My bedroom door now had a brand new lock. Hanging on it was a glowing neon sign livestream studio. My belongings all shoved into a dusty shed out back. My dad didn't even lift his eyes from his coffee. He just pointed toward the shed and said, "Stay there, or get out of this house." I stood there, heart pounding, staring at the life I thought was mine, completely gone. So I packed my bags and left. 1 year later, my phone lit up 60 missed calls from my mom and a short text message. "Where are you? What happened during that time? Why were they calling me? Stay and I'll tell you everything." 2 weeks before everything fell apart, I was riding high. My latest project as a digital content creator had just wrapped, and I'd landed a contract worth $30,000. For the first time in a while, I felt like I could breathe, maybe even treat myself and my parents to something special. I'd always dreamed of taking them to Hawaii, just the three of us, to make up for the years I'd been too busy to spend time with them. So one evening, I sat them down at our dining table in Grand Rapids, Michigan, and laid out the plan. "I'm booking a trip to Hawaii," I said, smiling at my mom and dad. "Just us, flights, hotel, everything covered." "What do you say?" My mom, Brenda, lit up, her eyes wide with excitement. My dad, Robert, nodded, a rare grin breaking through his usual stern face. It felt good, like we were finally connecting again. But then Mom's smile faltered and she glanced at Dad. "It'd be great if your brother could join us," she said, her voice soft but firm. My stomach twisted. My brother Shane was 28, a streamer who spent his days yelling into a mic for thousands of followers. He wasn't exactly struggling, but he was always borrowing money, $8,000 of it still unpaid from me. His wife Denise wasn't any better, always pushing him to chase bigger sponsorships while racking up credit card bills. I took a deep breath, trying to keep my voice steady. "Mom, I'm only covering you and Dad. Shane can pay his own way." The room went quiet. Dad's grin vanished and he leaned forward, elbows on the table. "That's unfair," he said, his tone sharp. "Your brother's working hard to build his career. You've got the money, Hannah. Why can't you help him out?" I stared at him, my chest tightening. Help him out. I'd been helping for years, covering their internet bills, pitching in for groceries, even paying for Shane's new streaming gear when he swore he'd pay me back. "Dad, he owes me $8,000, I said, my voice rising. "I'm not a bank." Mom jumped in, her hands fidgeting. "Hannah, family supports each other. Shane's trying to make it big. You know how tough it is out there." I couldn't believe it. They were acting like I was the selfish one, like my hard-earned money was just a family piggy bank for Shane's dreams. Denise, who'd been sitting silently, finally spoke up. "You're doing well, Hannah," she said, her tone sugary but pointed. "A trip for all of us would be a nice gesture." A gesture. I clenched my fists under the table. Shane just sat there, scrolling on his phone, not even bothering to look up. That's when it hit me. My parents weren't just asking me to pay for him. They expected it, like it was my job to prop up Shane's life while they cheered him on. "Shane's 28, I said, looking straight at him. "If he wants to go, he can figure it out himself." Shane finally glanced up, smirking. "Chill, Hannah. It's just a trip. Don't make it a big deal." "A big deal," I wanted to scream. Instead, I pushed my chair back and stood. "It is a big deal when I'm the only one paying for everything," I snapped. Dad slammed his hand on the table, making the glasses rattle. "Enough," he said. "If you're going to be stingy, maybe you shouldn't be planning family trips at all." Stingy. The word cut deep like a knife, twisting in my gut. I looked at Mom, hoping she'd say something, anything to back me up. But she just stared at, her hands silent. That night, I booked the Hawaii trip for me and my two best friends, Corey Blake and Vance Ross. My parents could come if they paid for themselves, but Shane and Denise? No way. As I clicked confirm on the tickets, I felt a mix of relief and anger. I thought that was the worst of it. But when I got back from that trip, I found out just how far my family was willing to go to put Shane first. I stepped off the plane from Hawaii exhausted, but ready to collapse in my own bed. The cab dropped me at our house in Grand Rapids, Michigan, and I dragged my suitcase up the driveway. Something felt off. Right away, Shane's beat-up sedan was parked next to Denise's shiny SUV, taking up space where my car usually sat. I shrugged it off, figuring they were just visiting. But as I pushed open the front door, my stomach sank. The living room was quiet, no sign of my mom or dad. I headed down the hall to my bedroom, ready to drop my bags and crash. But when I reached my door, I froze. A shiny new lock gleamed where my old knob used to be. Above it, a tacky neon sign blinked Shane's livestream studio in bright blue. My heart started pounding. I tried the handle locked tight. My room, my space, was gone. I stormed to the backyard where the shed sat under a sagging tarp. Inside, my stuff was piled in a corner, books, clothes, my old laptop all tossed together like trash. My favorite jacket was crumpled under a box of Shane's old streaming cables. My hands shook as I stood there staring at the mess. This wasn't just about a room. It was like my entire life had been shoved aside to make space for Shane's ego. I marched back inside, finding Denise in the kitchen sipping coffee like nothing was wrong. "Denise, what's going on?" I asked, my voice sharp. She looked up, barely surprised, and set her mug down. "Oh, Hannah, you're back," she said, her tone too casual. "Shane needed a professional setup for his streams. You know how important his career is. Your room was the only space big enough." I blinked, trying to process her words. "My room," I said, my voice rising. "You moved my stuff to the shed without asking me." Denise shrugged like it was no big deal. "We figured you wouldn't mind. You're barely here anyway with all your work trips." Barely here. I'd been living in that house my whole life, paying bills, keeping things together while Shane chased his livestream fame. "Where's Shane?" I demanded. Denise pointed toward the hall. I stormed back to his room and banged on the door. No answer. I could hear the faint hum of his streaming setup inside, microphones, lights, the works. He'd turned my space into his personal stage, and no one thought to tell me. I went looking for my mom, hoping she'd explain this insanity. I found her in the laundry room, folding towels like it was just another day. "Mom, why is my room Shane's studio now?" I asked, barely holding it together. She paused, avoiding my eyes. "Hannah, Shane's career is taking off," she said softly. "He needed a proper space to keep up with his sponsors. We thought you'd understand." Understand. My head was spinning. They'd taken my room, my privacy, and dumped my stuff in a shed, all for Shane's so-called career. I tried one last time. "You didn't even ask me," I said, my voice cracking. Mom just sighed like I was overreacting. "It's just a room, Hannah. Family makes sacrifices." Sacrifices I'd been sacrificing for years, money, time, energy, while Shane coasted on their support. Denise walked in, catching the end of our conversation. "Shane's got a big deal coming up," she said, crossing her arms. "This setup could make or break him." "You're doing fine, Hannah. Why make a fuss?" I stood in the kitchen, my pulse racing, determined to get answers. The sting of seeing my room turned into Shane's livestream studio was bad enough, but the way Denise brushed it off like I was overreacting pushed me over the edge. I needed to know why my family thought this was okay. I found my dad, Robert, in the living room, flipping through a newspaper like nothing had happened. "Dad, we need to talk," I said, my voice steady despite the anger bubbling inside. He lowered the paper, his eyes narrowing. "What's this about, Hannah?" he asked, as if he didn't already know. I took a deep breath, trying to keep my cool. "Why is my room Shane's studio? Why are my things in the shed?" My words hung in the air, sharp and direct. Before Dad could answer my mom, Brenda walked in, her face tense. "Hannah, calm down," she said, her voice soft but patronizing. "Calm down." My entire life had been uprooted, and she wanted me to stay quiet. I ignored her and turned back to Dad. "You didn't even ask me," I said, my fists clenching. You just decided my room belongs to Shane now. Dad leaned back in his chair, crossing his arms. Your brother's career is important, he said, his tone cold. He's got sponsors counting on him. You've got your job, Hannah. You don't need that room as much as he does. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. My job, my money, my contributions to this house, none of it mattered, because Shane's streaming dreams took priority. Shane's career, I snapped. I've been paying bills here for years. What about me? Mom stepped closer, her hands raised like she was trying to mediate. Hannah, we're a family, she said. We make choices for everyone's benefit. Shane's close to a big break. A big break. I'd heard that excuse 100 times, and it always ended with Shane blowing his chances. Denise appeared in the doorway, her arms crossed, a smug look on her face. You're making this harder than it needs to be, she said. Shane's under pressure. This studio is a game changer for him. I turned to her, my voice shaking. And what about me? Denise, where am I supposed to sleep? She shrugged like it wasn't her problem. The shed's fine. It's just temporary. Temporary. My eyes darted to Dad, waiting for him to say something, anything to show he cared. Instead, he stood up, his face hard. You've got two options, Hannah, he said. Stay in the shed or get out of the house. The words hit me like a punch. My own father choosing Shane over me, reducing my life to a dusty corner of the backyard. I looked at Mom, hoping for a flicker of support. She just stared at the floor, silent. Shane wasn't even there, probably streaming, oblivious to the chaos he'd caused. I felt the weight of years of being pushed aside, always second to Shane's needs. You're serious? I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. Dad didn't flinch. That's the deal, he said. Something snapped inside me. I wasn't going to beg for a place in my own home. Fine, I said, my voice steady now. I'm done. I turned and walked out of the living room. My heart pounding, but my mind clear. They'd made their choice, and I was making mine. I headed to the shed to grab what I could carry. Inside, the air was stale, and my belongings were a chaotic pile. Books, bent clothes, tangled my old sketchbooks buried under Shane's discarded junk. I grabbed a duffel bag and started packing, my hands moving faster than my thoughts. As I stuffed my laptop and a few shirts into the bag, memories I'd tried to bury came rushing back. Shane had always been the golden child. When we were kids, he got the bigger birthday gifts, a shiny bike, while I got a hand-me-down scooter. In high school, Mom and Dad paid for his private soccer lessons, but my art classes? Too expensive, they said. Even when I started working, my money went to family bills while Shane's went to his streaming dreams. I zipped the bag, my chest tight with resentment. I thought about the time Shane borrowed my savings for a new gaming console, promising to pay me back. He never did. Yet Mom always defended him, saying he was figuring things out. Dad would nod, proud of Shane's so-called ambition. I was the reliable one, the one who kept the house running, but it was never enough. They'd chosen Shane over me again and again, and now they'd taken my room to prove it. I dragged the bag out of the shed and headed to my car. The house was silent. No one came to stop me. No one even peeked out to check if I was okay. I threw the bag in the back seat, my mind racing. I couldn't stay here, not after they'd made it clear I was disposable. I pulled out my phone and texted Corey, my best friend since middle school. Can I crash at your place tonight? I typed, my fingers shaking. His reply came instantly. Get over here. Doors open. Driving through Grand Rapids, I felt a strange mix of anger and relief. The streets were familiar, but the life I'd known was slipping away. Corey's apartment was a small, cluttered space on the east side, nothing fancy, but it felt safer than my own home. When I walked in, he was sprawled on the couch, a pizza box open in front of him. You okay? He asked, sitting up, his voice full of concern. I dropped my bag and sank onto the couch, shaking my head. They gave Shane my room. I said, my voice low. Dad told me to stay in the shed or leave. Corey's eyes widened, but he didn't interrupt. I told him everything, how Denise acted like it was no big deal, how Mom stayed quiet, how Dad drew a line I couldn't cross. Talking it out made it real, and the betrayal cut deeper than I expected. Corey leaned forward, his face serious. "That's messed up, Hannah," he said. "You don't deserve that." His words were simple, but they hit hard. For the first time that day, I felt seen. I didn't have to explain why I was hurt or justify my anger. Corey got it. He offered me his spare room, just a tiny space with an air mattress, but it was more than my family had given me. As I lay on that air mattress that night, staring at the ceiling, I realized something. Leaving wasn't just about escaping the shed or Shane's studio. It was about breaking free from years of being overlooked, of carrying a family that didn't value me. I wasn't running away. I was choosing myself. For once, I'd put my needs first, no matter how much it hurt. The next morning, I woke up on the air mattress in Corey's apartment, the weight of yesterday still pressing down on me. Staying at Corey's place gave me a chance to catch my breath, but I knew it was only temporary. I needed my own space, my own future. Corey was a lifeline from the start. Over breakfast, leftover pizza, and coffee, he didn't push me to talk about the fight with my family. Instead, he jumped straight to action. "You need a place," he said, pulling out his laptop. "Let's find you something solid." I nodded, grateful for his no-nonsense approach. That same morning, he called Vance, my other best friend, who knew the Grand Rapids rental market better than anyone. By noon, the three of us were scrolling through listings, narrowing down options that fit my budget. We found a one-bedroom apartment downtown, a cozy spot with big windows and a rent of $1,200 a month. It wasn't fancy, but it was mine. Vance drove me to the leasing office the next day, cracking jokes to keep my spirits up. "This place is better than a shed," he said, grinning as we signed the lease. I laughed for the first time in days, feeling a spark of hope. Moving in took a weekend. Corey hauled boxes, Vance set up my Wi-Fi, and I unpacked the few things I'd salvaged from the shed. Every step felt like reclaiming a piece of myself. With a place to call my own, I threw myself into work. As a digital content creator, I'd always juggled projects, but living with my family had been a constant distraction. Shane's late-night streams, Mom's endless excuses for him, Dad's demands for my help with bills. Now in my quiet apartment, I could focus. I pitched new ideas to clients, collaborated with brands I'd only dreamed of working with before, and started a side project, a video series about chasing your own path. The freedom was intoxicating. Within a month, my income doubled. One client offered a long-term contract worth $50,000, enough to cover rent and save for the future. I wasn't just surviving, I was thriving. Corey and Vance were my biggest cheerleaders, dropping by with takeout to celebrate every milestone. "You're killing it," Corey said one night, raising a glass of cheap wine. Vance chimed in, "Told you you didn't need that house." Their support reminded me what real family looked like, people who lifted you up, not pushed you aside. I built a routine that worked. Mornings were for editing videos, afternoons for client calls, and evenings for brainstorming new content. I joined a local co-working space, connecting with other creators who shared tips and ideas. My videos started gaining traction, with thousands of views pouring in. Fans left comments about how my story inspired them to take risks. It felt good to know my work mattered, that I was building something real without my family's shadow hanging over me. There were moments when doubt crept in. Late at night, I'd wonder if I'd been too harsh, if I should have stayed and fought for my place. But then I'd remember the shed, the way my dad dismissed me, how Shane never even apologized. I'd made the right choice. My phone stayed quiet, no calls or texts from Mom, Dad, Shane, or Denise. That silence was both painful and liberating. It confirmed they didn't care enough to reach out, but it also meant I was free to move forward. By the end of that first month, I'd saved enough to buy new furniture, a desk, a proper bed, things that made my apartment feel like home. I wasn't rich, but I was stable, and that was more than I'd ever had living with my family. Corey and Vance kept me grounded, always ready with a laugh or a reality check when I needed it. They didn't just help me find a place, they helped me find myself. My new life was just beginning. Nearly a year after moving out, my phone lit up with a notification that stopped me cold. It was a text from Denise, the first contact from anyone in my family since I'd left. "Hannah, we need to talk. It's urgent," it read. My stomach churned, but I ignored it, focusing on a client pitch I was prepping. Then another text came, and another. By the end of the day, my phone showed 60 missed calls from my mom, Brenda, and a voicemail that sounded desperate. Something big had happened. I called Corey, who'd been my rock through everything. "You won't believe this," I said, explaining the messages. He suggested meeting at a coffee shop to figure it out. When I arrived, Vance was there too, ready to weigh in. I played the voicemail on speaker. Mom's voice was shaky, almost unrecognizable. "Hannah, please call me back. We're in trouble. Shane needs you. Shane needs you." Those words hit like a slap. After everything, they were reaching out because of Shane again. I called Mom back, bracing myself. She answered on the first ring, her voice frantic. "Hannah, thank God," she said. "Shane's in deep trouble. He lost his big sponsorship deal." I stayed silent, waiting for the rest. She went on, explaining how Shane had been gambling online, blowing thousands of dollars he didn't have. His sponsors caught wind of it, dropped him, and now he owed a debt so massive it was crushing the family. "We had to sell the house," she said, her voice breaking. I gripped the phone, my mind racing. The house, my childhood home, the one I'd poured my money into, was gone because of Shane's recklessness. I felt a pang of loss, but no surprise. This was who Shane was chasing: quick wins, never thinking about the fallout. "What do you want from me?" I asked, my tone flat. Mom hesitated, then said, "We need your help, Hannah. Money may be a place to stay." I almost laughed. After they'd kicked me out, taken my room, and ignored me for a year, they thought I'd bail them out before I could respond. Denise's voice came through the line she'd been listening on speaker. "Hannah, please," she said, her usual smugness gone. "Shane's a mess. We're family. You're doing so well now. Can't you help us?" Her words burned. Family. They hadn't treated me like family when they gave Shane my room, or when Dad told me to live in the shed. Now, with their world falling apart, they saw me as their safety net. I took a deep breath, steadying myself. "Denise, you don't get to call me family now," I said, my voice firm. "You made your choices. Shane made his. I'm not cleaning up this mess." There was a long pause. Mom started to speak, her voice trembling, but I cut her off. "I've been supporting this family for years. I'm done." I hung up my hands, shaking, but my resolve solid. They didn't get to rewrite the past just because they were desperate. Corey and Vance sat across from me, their faces a mix of shock and pride. "You did the right thing," Vance said, leaning back in his chair. Corey nodded. "They can't expect you to fix their problems after what they did." Their support grounded me, reminding me I wasn't alone. I'd built a new life with people who valued me, not just what I could give them. Later that week, I heard through a mutual friend that Shane's gambling debts were in the tens of thousands. My parents had sold the house to cover part of it, but they were still drowning. Shane hadn't streamed in months, his career in tatters. Denise was scrambling to find work, but her reputation was tied to Shane's failure. I felt a flicker of pity, but it faded fast. They'd built this disaster, not me. I'd chosen my own path, and looking back, it was the hardest but best decision I ever made. Leaving my family's house in Grand Rapids wasn't just about escaping Shane's chaos or my parents' betrayal. It was about discovering what I was capable of. I learned that independence isn't just paying your own bills. It's trusting yourself to build a life that reflects who you are, not who others expect you to be. Corey and Vance taught me the true meaning of support. When I was at my lowest, they didn't just offer a couch or a ride, they believed in me. They showed up with practical help, like finding my apartment, and emotional strength, like reminding me I deserved better. Their friendship was a lifeline, proof that chosen family can mean more than blood. I'll always be grateful for them. This journey wasn't easy. There were nights I doubted myself, wondering if I'd been too stubborn, or if I could have fixed things with Mom, Dad, Shane, or Denise. But every time I thought about going back, I remembered how they'd pushed me aside, how they valued Shane's fleeting dreams over my steady contributions. I realized some bridges aren't worth rebuilding. Standing up for myself meant walking away, and that was my strength. Now my life is my own. My work as a content creator is thriving. My apartment feels like home, and I'm surrounded by people who lift me up. I've learned to prioritize my peace, to invest in relationships that are mutual, not one-sided. If you're facing a similar struggle, know this: you're stronger than you think. You don't have to stay in a place that diminishes you. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Have you ever had to choose yourself over family? Drop a comment below and share your story. Let's talk about what it means to find your own path.